Hi guys, welcome to the third part of the webinar that took place on the 20th of July. If you haven't already seen part 1 and part 2, please check on the links down below. Our third speaker is Patrick Boscher. Patrick has been successfully connecting regulation, technology and businesses for over 10 years. As a pioneer of what we call today regulatory technology. Enjoy.
Yeah, Hugo, thank you so much. And I have to admit, I'm one of those cheaters probably because I voted for tech in 100 years, 3 times in a row. So probably that's gonna be your next topic. No, but anyway, thanks for having me and also, presenting, a very interesting topic that hopefully will, encourage you to do something on that. Quickly on me, my passion is really on connecting regulations, laws, which sounds really odd and weird, with technology as well as business. So that's what I have been doing for the last decade, and I really enjoy doing it because I think it's always a very nice and encouraging challenge. So just recently, it's not like very long ago, there was a paper being published by the FATF, which is the Financial Action Task Force. They're basically the OECD, UN, like those kind of intergovernmental bodies in the world, and they were discussing the topic about anti-money laundering, right? And this time they really phrased another topic, or they included a topic which was like illegal wildlife trafficking or trade, how you would phrase that, right? And I've been there in this topic before already, but at this point I said, hey, we're going to have to look into this, and we have to do some studies. We're going to have to do some research. We're going to have to figure out, okay, how can we do it? Because FATF, so again, this is like, the major body of, financial crime in the world. They said, this is a major topic. So how can we help them? So I put together a team and we started investigating it. And the team includes really people from, and I'm very helpful from, intergovernmental bodies, such as, United Nations, from intelligence services, police, customs. So we brought people together and really thought about how can this work, And I just want to share the current observation, the current status of our studies with you, because it's very, very beginning, to be honest. But maybe also an opportunity for every one of you guys to think about, hey, how can you contribute, or whether there's like an amazing business opportunity. But by the way, there's good business opportunities, so listen carefully. So despite this wonderful, guy here, I quickly want to just explain to you how the problem looks like, because illegal wildlife trafficking or trade, you think about, it's like, you get whatever, a dinosaur from Africa to Europe. It's significantly more complicated. I'll try to do it in a really nutshell. So reality case, that's also a real map, right? And statistics and this kind of stuff. So just assume you're a really bad guy, you want to make money, and you're like in the middle of China. So you think it's a great idea to just, import, for instance, ivory from Africa, towards China. Or what happens mostly is like the countries around it, because of, you don't want to have this to be distributed to your neighbor. So what you would basically do is you have like, your local or close distribution channels where you say, hey, where's interest, where, do you want to get some, ivory from, and make the deals. Eventually, as you can imagine, unfortunately, it has to come from somewhere. There's a lot of stuff from Africa. There's a lot of stuff from South America. It can be traced back. It's very difficult. We come to this point later where we can actually trace it and we can figure it out, and how also, police is going to figure it out, and so on. So you're going to have the local hunters, and that's where it's getting very difficult, because usually they get bribed, and you're basically talking to local farmers, and you would bribe them, literally not with bitcoins, maybe happening in the near future, hopefully not, but right now in cash. And then the trade happens back then, right? You know, they manage everything, they get those animals or parts of it on ships, and it goes back to Asia. And this is happening on a very, very large scale. And we're talking about probably the billions of US dollars of trade every single year. So this is a massive, massive topic where you can see there's a lot of data flowing, you know, from right to the left and back. So this was one point where you thought, hey, it's interesting because there's money flowing, but there's also products. And I took over the wording of FATF of product, which I think is not very fair, because sometimes it's not a living animal more. But problem is, the money goes from the one who buys it, for instance, in China, it goes to China, and some part go to Africa. So the money flow is completely different from where the flow is of the product, which is the animal, which might be like an elephant or whatever other deer, and is going from Africa straight to through some weird islands because they're trying to hide it as well, of course, back to Asia. So this is why I said, okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And I talked to the team and said, like, well, let's have a look at it. And we talked to the FATF, we talked to those guys, and I said, hey, we are following the money. We're trying to figure this out. And I said, oh, that's great, guys. So you're gonna do the money thing. Let's have a look at the product thing. And that's what we did. Trying to figure out, hey, how can we actually do something on a product side? Because they were looking at the money side. And I don't say we have it solved. We're very far away from it, but I think we have very good approaches towards it. And I just want to share this with you guys, because there's a very great example of where money and product really divert, which is, the lovely diamonds, that some of your wives have, like on their ring finger. Many of those rings in particular, or the diamonds coming from Africa, they're labeled. Probably you don't know because it's very, very small, and it's really not, you just need a microscope to identify it. And they are already on blockchains. So there's really a lot of stuff going on with diamonds already, because blood diamonds and all those wars, it has been a major and significant topic. And it was just a major topic, 10, 15, 20 years ago, as it will become a major topic for illegal wildlife trade, as it is right now for, the international community. And this is some point where he said, hey, let's figure it out. How can we make sure that we can trace everything from A to C? And this was a very interesting question, and we were thinking a lot, and we were talking to people on the ground, which has been very difficult during the last couple of weeks and months, to be honest, because we had to figure out, hey, you can, like, you get a diamond, right, out of, a mountain, and you can just label it with, a code like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But how do you want to do it with an elephant? Right? It's not the same thing, because it's a living animal. It runs around. It's gonna look different tomorrow when it just runs into the mud again. It's gonna be completely different thing. And that's when we basically said, hey, what is key, and what can we get? So data, as all of you know, right? In a blockchain area, or in a blockchain sphere, data is available. We can get data, we can use data, and we can use it for certain purposes. But we can share it, we can use it, but what is it really worth it? And it came to one conclusion, and this is actually, a statement of an email just, 2 weeks ago, where someone told me data gathering and sharing has never been easier, but more complicated, just shortened, right, than ever before. And that made us think, right? Because if you want to use blockchain to use it, And I'll explain to you in a second why we think it does make sense. Um, how do you really want to make sure that the data you're getting does actually make sense and you can rely on it? Because the point is, bad guys, that will remain bad guys. It's like a police officer, they're going to be police officers. They're going to be nice guys in future as well. So the bad guys still have their, opinion about, we're going to be on the other side of the world. So the point was eventually to say, hey, what can we do? And we came up with, a few conclusions where we said that actually could work, which is again my passion about connecting regulations, and you can also include enforcement with regulatory, with business and technology, and all of those points, right? Which is very interesting because it was, or I'm advising a bunch of companies as well, of the concept of SSI, which is, self-sovereign identity, which I learned, right? And I was thinking, hey, why can't we just have, SSI in a blockchain for something which is not a self thing, but it is something that exists. So it's not a human being. It's not a, it's not the finger on your ring, but it's basically an animal. So the point is, we did some research on whether we could have a unique identity, for instance, on a tiger. And eventually, yep, it's possible. It does work. So because tigers, the face and face recognition, and we talked to specialists in intelligence services, it actually works. But as I said, it's very easy to alter because they have, despite human beings, like different shapes of everything else. However, they have some unique stuff that's like in the color and the shape and everything else. But it told us, it has to be unique. And it's very easy to modify because it has been modified, so for many times. So we said, hey, something that's not being modifiable, that sounds like blockchain. It's like the first indicator we said, hey, okay, let's use this very complicated technology for it. But this was like the first indicator we thought, okay, this really might be some blockchain thing. Okay, so, in the past, like you have those usual, KYC onboarding things where you scan your face and everything else. Okay, you want to do this with, a tiger now. We figured out it actually works. We talked to the guys in Africa on the ground, and they said, yeah, they actually have drones flying around that could send us pictures. And we're like, okay, by the way, this is really actual current research. So we got pictures, we got information, and we're in the middle of it. I already can say it does work. It's amazing. I would have never thought that this is so accurate that, a technology can differentiate between two tigers, more precisely than I can. They look the same to me. Actually, they look differently. But anywho, as a second step, which was more interesting for us, was how can we make sure we can overcome one of the biggest problems ever that was mentioned before, which is corruption. And corruption is, and I can tell you guys, I've been like in the area of financial crime like for so many years. It's happening all over the place, really, literally anywhere, all the time. So how can you make sure that you avoid corruption? Well, as Nicholas, pointed out, it's very easy. Just use blockchain, right? It's immutable. And this was for us like in a moment where I said, okay, just use it. Let's go for it. Let's give it a try. So how about we uniquely identify, that it's not a picture of a lovely drawn tiger here, but just imagine lovely and tiger here would be immutable, tracked and traced on a blockchain throughout, his entire life. The same way we're identified through, by accident, I have my passport here, through my passport that looks like, I have been using too much, you have a full identity and you have full scalability and you have full trace. And I can tell you it works. What it does require though, and this is the part we are working on, is the private and public partnerships. And that's where my encouragement goes to you guys to say, hey, we have ideas of tackling such really important topics. We have ideas how to manage it, how to get it fixed, how to get it done. We're promoting private and public partnerships, PPPs, or 3Ps or whatever you might call it. And this is very important because I think that, and I strongly believe that the public needs the private corporations and the companies like us thinking crazy, running, those exercises. So I'm working again with public as well as private. And, just literally yesterday morning, we signed an agreement with a great research institute in India on blockchain to help us on this, to get more ideas into how to add value to society, right? Because as stated here, right, bad guys are creative, but they leave traces. So, and that's where I strongly believe that, the technology of blockchain, don't forget, we're going to get those, gringos, we're going to get them. It's just a matter of time. And that's why I encourage everyone here in the call or, watching this, if you have cool ideas and there's coming up ideas and challenges all day long, every single week, where the public needs creative and cool ideas, reach out to them, call the UN, call those people, call me, but make a contribution to the world because there is a lot of demand. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Patrick. That was actually pretty interesting. I have actually a question that I wanted to pose to you because I find it very interesting how you manage to work with people and technology, and also, well, it has to do something, I guess, with politics as well. So my question was like, what has been your biggest obstacle in your ongoing investigation? You reckon is the application of the tech or bureaucracy?
Well, the biggest obstacle, it's very easy. It's COVID-19. It's about people have different and other priorities. Getting them on a table is really, really, really hard. And it requires, again, all of the efforts is non-for-profit that we're doing. That has to be said, right? I didn't mention it, right? That's all non-for-profit. But it's really hard to get them on a table to get their opinion on it. Right? So luckily I have a lot of connections, so it's easy for me to reach out to them. But that if they were more responsive, in particular, like, hey, if you're watching United Nations, be more responsive. That would be great.
Understand. So, but other than the COVID situation, which obviously is affecting us all, what do you reckon it will be? I mean, the tech is easy for you, is easy to apply, or is it a little bit too complex still to go ahead, or is it something that simple for you, but maybe you have different obstacles, like people obstacles, or also like as you said, like people are very creative, and then you have to find the path behind it and think outside of the box.
No.
What would be the?
Yeah, technology pretty much is. If you have to create a idea, you get the funding. Just present it the right way. Mm-hmm. It's not about finding, or figuring out like whether or not you want to use a centralized service or DLT, whatever works best, right? If you have the right technology for the right solution, you get the funding, and that's not an obstacle anymore, to be frank. And it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. And it is. When we're talking to regulators, they're going to focus on one or the other, technology, to be honest. They want to get it done. And that's crucial. And then you get a funding. You convince them.
Mhm.
You get it right, of course. Otherwise,
We have a different question from attendee called Rui. He asked, in your opinion, the expected time frame for the most interesting anti-corruption technologies to actually reach the mainstream use.
oh, that's good. That's a question to me. The most interesting corruption technologies. Oh wow, that's a very broad question, to be
Yeah.
honest. Um, well,
Oh, you top of your mind?
you can narrow it down, because this is really like very broad, right? It's or maybe Nicholas or someone else can answer this, but I think it's very broad.
Yeah.
Someone feels more comfortable to answer this one.
Wait 1 second, we cannot hear you, Niklas.
Sorry now. Yes, I can try. I don't think you can say this like in such a general way. I mean, the most interesting anti-corruption technologies are sometimes the easiest ones. So basically, if you look at public offices, just digitizing them, taking away direct contact points or reducing direct contact points between civil servants and citizens, basically creating a better paper trail. Those have reached the mainstream long time ago, but still are not used in many corrupt contexts. When you talk about blockchain, I mean, we're speaking about a phrase like until blockchain is in the mainstream, I think about at least another 5 years or so. But it really, really depends on technology, how difficult it is to use and implement, and also how big the impact is.
Yeah, and maybe to add what Nicholas just said, and I was thinking about it. Sorry, I needed you for like a couple of seconds to talk about it. Probably years. In particular, the point about the mainstream use. You can that's a point about, like, all the compliance products you're throwing on the market, or in your company, the adoption rate within a even like a small size company is going to be much, because it needs to reach a certain peak, and after a peak, it's gonna establish itself. So if you ask me, and this is a mainstream use, I don't know, 5 years.
Okay. Sebastian, do you have an opinion about this?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. It's basically the same amount of time we're going to need to see blockchain itself in mainstream use. So once blockchain is in mainstream use and everyone knows how to use it, everyone has cryptocurrency in their wallets, then we can also use public stuff, public procurement or whatever for everyone, because right now that's a major limitation. But I just wanted to say that the project that I presented is, of course, not far from mainstream. It's far from mainstream, but it's going to be launched this year in Colombia. So it's going to be in use in that country for that particular program.